So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this... I forgot what I was saying, folks. And this is the Mr. Media Interview, a broadcast and recorded live on blogtalkradio.com from the new media and baseball capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. When last we saw Lester, one of the morally challenged, that's a nice way to put it, morally challenged by more employees on the NBC spy comedy Chuck, he was making more than eye contact with fellow employee Morgan's girlfriend, Anna. Morgan saw them and was heartbroken. Anna had it even worse. She was repulsed. Poor, misunderstood Lester. Doing somewhat better, I suspect, is the actor who plays Lester, Vik Sahay, who joins us this morning to talk about one of Mr. Media's favorite shows, Chuck. Vic?
Hey.
Welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you. Morally challenged. Yes, apt. That's pretty apt.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I think it works. I think challenged is the right term because he's trying. He's trying.
Yeah, he's quite a character you've got going there. You know?
Yeah, he is. He wants to do well. That's how I see him. He wants to do right. His methods and his methodology are what is challenged, I think.
Here's a great example of that.
Okay.
This is from that Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And we won't even hear your voice, but this is all the characters are given a chance to I'll set up. They're given a chance to call their loved ones because they're being threatened at gunpoint, and this is the call that Lester makes.
Okay.
Hi there. You reached the Love Chat line. Looking to chat with someone special? Press 1.
So, and it was just a very Lester moment, because. Who's he going to call? Of course. I have to say, in some ways, Jeff may have one up to you there on the next call.
Yeah,
when he calls the prisoner. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
You had this great passing moment in that episode. I suspect you were pleased when you got the script to see Lester got some action in that episode.
Well, of course. I mean, action in every sense of the word. He got to attack and attempt and be physical, and then, of course, action with the girl. Yeah, I was pleased. I think that her reaction, Anna's reaction, was completely false and misread. I think that she was doing that for show. I think she was actually quite into it.
I see.
Well, okay, maybe not.
Well, the script kind of threw. I thought the viewer off a little bit because you had the sense building up to that point that Anna was kind of seeing Lester in a different light, and maybe something there.
You'll have to ask her, but I think that from her point of view, she was seeing him as somebody who was trying, but I don't think she meant for it to go any further than a new friend in her world. I think that he, of course, jumped on any opportunity he could, even when he was lying there looking at the cleavage right after being smashed in the face. His MO is that, I guess.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, he got a good shot of double cleavage, as I recall there.
That's right. Whatever cleavage is around, he'll take.
Now, I described your character, Lester, as morally challenged. How would you describe him?
From my point of view, he's a guy who. This is how I look at him. He's a guy who, not to get overly whatever. There's certain aspects of friendship and family and acceptance and respect that we all kind of take for granted that Lester is completely naive about. He has no experience. He grew up, I think, in a family. You get little pieces of it every once in a while that was full of beyond high expectations, and I think there was no coddling and no love and no there was an absentness, I think, there, and so all he knows when he's looking for what I believe is he's just looking for respect, and he's looking for friends, and he's looking for love and whatnot. He's this little kid, and all he knows is to yell and scream and hammer at it and become the coolest and the best and the number one constantly. And that's his methodology is what's the problem, is that he doesn't know how to be calm and be a real friend. He just thinks he needs to defeat and beat everybody at everything. So that's how I see him.
I guess we kind of saw a bit of that at Thanksgiving when he was amazed to find that people actually cook these meals.
Yeah.
And
there was a line that got cut out of it where Morgan says something like, it's like regular Thanksgiving, and he said something along the lines of, I never really had Thanksgiving. My parents were always too busy jet-setting between Tel Aviv and Mumbai. And so that's where I took that little nugget as who this guy is. He's had these incredibly, I guess, high-achieving parents who weren't there for him.
And so is he an Indian Jew?
Yes, he's an Indian Jew. He's a mixture. There actually is quite a Jewish population in India, known as the B'nai Menashe, I think. And his father was Indian and his mother was Jewish.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm piecing little things together, little clues, and putting it together, and building around that.
Is it important to you? I mean, you get only so many moments as a supporting cast member to make an impression and to play it. Is it important to have some kind of backstory for a character like that, or can you just show up and play what's written week to week?
I think it depends on who you are. Me, I need everything. I like to build from the ground up or the inside out, I guess. I before we even started shooting, from the pilot, and this is how insane I am. So, don't take this as the right way to go about it. But, I had a word or two in the pilot, and yet I still would kind of go from, went to the Buy More equivalent in Canada, where I'm from, and talked to employees right, left, and center to kind of find the engine of this guy and who he is, and then build, his actions are so, as you put it, morally challenged. I was like, well, he's not, nobody's, inherently evil.
No.
What's driving him? Like, what is it? What's the matter with this guy? And what can I relate to in that? And so that's how I go about it, I think that if I told you I just showed up and did what was written, the result would probably be the same, maybe. But for me, because of my own, needs and insecurities and training, I guess, that's how I go about it. I get inside it. Eat at it.
Let me give out our phone number.
Okay.
It's a little early in the day, I know, but if you've got a question for Vik Sahay, co-star of the NBC spy show and comedy Chuck, give us a call, 646-595-3135. What was I going to ask you? Is there a big difference in the character from that first episode from the pilot to today? Has he changed much?
Well, in the pilot there wasn't. I think that they had planted little tiny seeds of who certain supporting characters were going to be, and I think that with Lester in particular, they weren't sure. I think that they had a couple of moments. And so when we shot the pilot, I kind of went in to do it and just kind of started improvising and had kind of made initial choices. And like I said, I talked to some people and so for me, the difference is obviously, externally the amount of screen time, but I think that based on kind of some things I was improvising and some ideas that came up while we were shooting, he is who he is. I mean, he's slowly, but surely, unbeknownst to him, I think, maybe sometimes just by being in the environment of having to be around other people, kind of getting moments of what it's like to be friends or whatnot. But for me, from the inside, I kind of have built little nuggets that I just wrap each episode around or each moment around, and he is that guy. He's the guy that I kind of came into the pilot with, though, we just get to see more and more of him, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
have you and Scott Krinsky, who plays Jeff, together, you guys are kind of like a Greek chorus in the show.
All right, yeah. Wow.
Well,
is that how you see it?
A little bit, yeah,
Okay. Commenting on the action in a kind of neutral point way, is that how you see it?
Sometimes, yeah. Okay. Especially when you consider that a lot of the stuff with Zachary is going on apart from all that, but you're kind of commenting on things that go on in the Buy More,
right?
That are apart from that. Yeah, I kind of see that. I've kind of wondered if, because you guys are such a team, I mean, most of your scenes play off of each other, and Josh Gomez sometimes as well, but I wondered if you guys have spent much time talking about the characters in the way that you've figured out who Lester is. I wonder if he's figured out who Jeff is and who they are together.
Well, I think that one of the things that's really great about Scott and working with him is that, we have an energy in real life that is, I think, akin to the energy of Lester and Jeff. I think there's a similar general energy, and so we can easily tap into that as we go. We do talk as the season progresses about their history and who they are and their friendship. And I, from Lester's point of view, have certainly made decisions about, what the back and forth is about and why these kind of social misfits fit, really, together. But yeah, I think Scott would have tons to say about Jeff. But Scott is very close in energy, not in, drinking, to Jeff, so I can just kind of go off who he is in a sense. Yeah.
All right. Vic, we've got a call here. Hi, do you have a question or comment for Vik Sahay from Chuck?
Oh, hi, Vic.
Hi.
I really like you were talking about the kind of relationship you two have. It's fun to watch. It's a good counterpoint. But I wondered, it was I guess the end of last season when the casting changed for some of the Buy More clerks, and Harry Chang had been the boss, and I thought, oh, he's gone. How's that going to work? Was there any concern there when he was leaving? Was that something that was mutual, or were you guys all thinking, oh gosh, are we going to be leaving?
No, to be honest with you, it was literally because CS, who plays Harry Chang, was booked on another show. And so nobody wanted him to leave. I mean, he was incredible. And the was simply about, he's so good, how would we ever fill that void?
Yeah.
I think that, and so it was just that. It was just that he had to go, and we knew that. It wasn't about, let's just make a casting change, and so now we're all in jeopardy. It was that for contractual reasons, he needed to go to Dexter. Yeah.
Oh, Dexter. Okay.
Yeah,
it seems to have worked out pretty well, though I was surprised by the addition in the cast of, I can't think of the name of the actor who played Buster on
Tony Hill.
That's kind of filled up the joint. So I wondered how that's working out.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Hill is a genius. I mean, he is a nightmare because he's a genius, and and he like for me, both of those guys in a way. Like a year and a half ago, I was sitting in my little apartment watching them on TV, just in awe, and next thing I know, I got to go head to head with them. And so if you're going to replace CS, who is brilliant, Tony Hill is a pretty worthy replacement, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoy the show, and I think you're hysterical. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for calling.
Very cool. Sweet.
What do you know? It's early, but people come out for the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Out of concern for CS.
What are some of the craziest things you've been asked to do as Lester, or say?
Well, I think a lot of what Lester has to do or say is crazy. He's there are upcoming things that I'm not going to give away that were, out of my, Vik Sahay's kind of comfort zone, that were exhilarating to do. But, it's whenever, sometimes I'm like, oh, Lester, whenever it's like he's doing something. I mean, like kissing Anna. I was like, what? Why would you do that, buddy? Morgan has been your friend, and Thanksgiving happened, and he helped you, and yet, so it's whenever those things happen that I have to kind of take a deep breath and go and smile and go, this is who this boy is. He is just not thinking.
So you kind of hinted that Lester has some interesting moments ahead.
Yeah, there's I guess the grander theme again trying to avoid speaking specifically that comes up is that in a sense that Lester sort of fancies himself a superstar, really, right? And and in a sense, like with the assistant managership, feels he deserves to be at the top or in the spotlight or in the center, and really doesn't have the nervous system to back it up, kind of buckles every time he's granted that. And so in that grander theme, once again, he gets put in a position where he can be the center, he can be the superstar, and it's about him grappling with that. Yeah. I just feel like being more specific about what happens would just ruin it. Like, I mean, I'm one of those guys who always wants to know exactly what's about to happen, and every time I do, and then I see it happen, I'm like, I wish I didn't know. So I try to back away from being too specific.
Is there any depth that Lester won't plumb? I mean, after seeing him kiss Morgan's girlfriend, I'm thinking there may be no bottom to this guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I like to think that as he spends more time with, Jeff, obviously, and Morgan, and, sometimes with Chuck, and et cetera, that he's learning something about friends and friendship and people, but, there's some damage in him, and I don't know. I mean, he can be pretty despicable.
Let me give out our phone number again. If anyone else wants to call in, we've got the line open. Give us a call if you want to talk to Vik Sahay, co-star of the NBC Spy Show comedy, Chuck. The number is 646-595-3135. Do you mind if I ask you a little bit about some of the cast members? Any impressions?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Or impressions or stories or whatever you might.
Let's see. I have nothing.
No, we'll take a chance. Let's start with the man who plays Chuck, Zachary Levi.
Is that his name?
Yeah. Good.
Right, that's right. Zachary Levi, I think. Well, what can I say? I mean, he's an incredible guy. I mean, I wish there was. No, I don't wish, but I mean, if there was more salacious, juicy stuff to say, I would say, I would avoid saying it. But the truth be told, he's a great, gentle, good guy, and I find him to be, the whole cast. Before we get into the specifics, especially and led by him, all of the kind of, top 10 on the Time magazine and getting to promote the show and talk about it is all really, from my point of view, cherry on the cherry on the cake of being able to work with these guys, with Zach Levi and Josh and Scott and et cetera, because it's not necessary and not always the case that a ensemble would be like this, but these guys are such good guys and so good at what they do that it's an absolute and no exaggeration pleasure going into work every day. And speaking of Zach, he's the guy. He's the kind of center of it all, and he sets the tone and he sets the standard, and he's so generous. With me, he's been nothing but incredibly encouraging supportive and in the midst of probably one of the heaviest workloads I've ever seen anybody undertake. I mean, he's in every day, almost every scene.
Right.
Then when he's not doing that, he's around, flying around promoting the show. And he just, if he was a miserable guy who was unpleasant to be around, I would totally understand. And yet, none of that fatigue or wear and tear comes onto set.
So is he a guy who's enjoying the ride?
I think he's really enjoying himself. I think he's really having a blast, and I think it shows in his performance. And he's having a wild ride, and he absolutely deserves it. And I think he's really, he is enjoying it a lot. Yeah.
I'm figuring that 50% of the reason, and maybe 99% of the reason that he is enjoying the ride is Yvonne Strahovski.
I think that's 99% of the reason for all of us. I mean, what more needs to be said than that girl?
Oh, I don't know. You can think of something else.
Yeah, well, so could you, I'm sure. Yvonne is everything you see. I mean, she's gorgeous and she's incredibly intelligent. And the thing that I think that people don't get to see enough of is that she's hysterically funny. I mean, she could come into the Buy More seamlessly and work the comedy of it. She's very, very outlandishly funny. And when I had that little moment in the scene in season 1 with her where we had to do the where I came and hit on her, she was right there. I mean, there was no like, okay, I'm a dramatic actress now trying to walk in the waters of comedy. She came up with hysterical stuff and stuff that you don't see that was cut, and I was like, this girl can do everything. And so, I would love to see her get to do more kind of comedic moments in the show, because I think that she would fly at them.
I thought one of the most interesting moments with her over the season and a half we've got so far, aside from all the many moments where we get to see her, in her underwear and
yes.
That kind of thing, was actually there was an episode where she was playing a character who had an Australian accent, and it was like. It was so hard. She's so good that you actually thought, okay, this couldn't possibly be her real accent.
I know.
But of course,
it seemed like she was faking the Australian accent. Like it seemed. I mean, when I speak to her, and I've spent this much time on that set, when I speak to her off camera or off set or what have you. And hear her with this, wild, thick Australian accent, it's startling to me, too, because she's so good. She's so thoroughly good at the American accent that, you're right, you completely forget that this is who she actually is.
Now, what about Josh Gomez?
What about Josh Gomez? What about him?
Yeah, who cares? Let's move on. No.
Moving on.
No.
I mean, what can I say about Josh Gomez? To me, he's one of the sweetest guys on set. Off camera, we have a very funny kind of punchy, relationship that only comes out of kind of my affection for the guy. I think he's he's a really talented actor, and he's thoughtful, and he thinks things through, and he's what else can I say about him? I mean, you spoke to him. He's such an affable, great guy that it's not easy. And I've tried to not like the guy. He's a great guy. He's a great guy, and I think like a very kind of, I think, unexpectedly good actor. I think that playing Morgan, the way he's kind of progressed with the character and given Morgan depth and nuance is like it takes skill. It takes skill of an actor, and I think he's done it. And I love more and more and more. I love watching his scenes because he's so deft with the comedy and subtle and he's I like the guy a lot. I'll put it that way.
And what about your regular partner in crime, Scott Krinsky? You said a little about him before.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I mean, we have, we work the closest together from my point of view, and he's he he puts up with a lot with me, and the kind of steady. He bears a lot from my point of view. I can have a jagged kind of restless energy, and he's the kind of what would be the word? The ballast, the steady, the anchor, the kind of the guy who's there for me, really, in those scenes. And I love the guy, and I feel very lucky to be working with somebody who's there, who can bounce back so well in the scenes and can talk about things, and he's a sweet, gentle guy, man. I like that's what I'll say.
All right, and then we spoke a little bit about Lester's interaction with Anna, but tell us about Julia Ling, who plays her.
She's, I think, one of the most, from my point of view, I've kind of never met anybody like Julia. She's so versed in other things. The martial arts world and dance and that kind of thing, and knows so much about stuff outside the industry that she's pretty damn fascinating to just spend time with and chat with and learn things from and can kind of almost have a conversation about things that I would know nothing about, and she can talk endlessly about it. And so she's kind of one of the most unique people that I've encountered in my time on Chuck.
Mm. And then as we kind of round our way through the Buy More staff, Mark Lawrence, who plays Big Mike, and as we talked about earlier, came in.
Yeah, Mark Lawrence is what can I say? He's a joyful. I feel foolish going through the cast like this because these people are such good people. Like it really feels like, I mean, from what I've heard and what I've experienced a little bit, that not all casts get along this well. And whenever we have to do an event that we're all at together, we're not spending any time with anybody else. Really, it's kind of pathetic, honestly. We're hanging off each other and enjoying. After spending 16 hours a day shooting, we have to go out that night. We're still all kind of clumped together, laughing hysterically with and at each other. And Mark is a joyful. He's a stand-up comic. He's one of the funniest guys I know. Doesn't have the edge or the anger that Big Mike has at all. He's he brings it, and I love spending time with the guy. I mean, this is probably the most boring part of this interview because they're really a team of people that I'm not used to. I've been in cast before, and we all, it's all been great and everything like that. But when we spend time together, we are hanging out and laughing just as much as we are after 16 hours of shooting, and it's pretty unique, I think. And I like to think, and you tell me what you think, that kind of joy comes off on the screen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't blowing smoke here. We love the show in our house.
Oh, that's great.
We watch it. We usually record it on the DVR, and we all watch it together. And it's must. I hate to use the term, but it's must see TV in our house.
Oh, good.
So
absolutely. I mean, and obviously, everything is led by the four words: Josh Schwartz, Chris Fedak. But some of it, I think, is just the fact that casting-wise, I don't know if they knew what they were doing or not, but there's a chemistry and a glee and a kind of giddiness when we get to work together. When we get to do the group scenes at the Buy More, when everybody's there, there's a buzz and a kind of a giddiness that we're like, all right, let's go. It's like an excitement. It's.
Well, let me share with the listeners another clip from Chuck. I think this is from a webisode. We'll see in a minute.
Okay.
Here at Buy More, we believe in service with a smile.
Thank you for choosing Buy More. Please come again soon.
Yeah.
That was a second of you from one of the webisodes where you're featured.
The rest of that webisode doesn't. Lester, of course, is not behaving. We hear him in that clip saying, thank you for you being very polite and sweet. And the part that we didn't hear is everything that led up to that.
Oh, but wait, I have that here.
Oh, great.
Yeah, let's flesh that out a little bit.
Oh, wonderful.
The Buy More employees again out at work.
Dude. Look. She's mine. I saw her first.
You know the rules. Rochambeau.
You're right. Okay. 1, 2... Mr. Patel, at your service. What seems to be the problem, man?
Things busted.
Oh. Fear not. I'm told they're magical.
I was uploading some pictures to my website and it just died.
What kind of pictures?
The personal kind.
Right. I recognize you from somewhere.
I'm in the entertainment industry.
Yes, I thought so. So you're...
Look, are you going to be able to retrieve my pictures or what?
Yeah. Almost there.
What?
What? Nothing. What? No, your file of... excuse me, Jefferson? These files look corrupt to you.
Why don't we ask Anna?
What?
Anna? Seems corrupt.
Oh, yeah. Looks way corrupted. Can I touch it?
We have to make a duplicate of your hard drive.
You may have to leave your laptop overnight.
I tell you about watching porno on the sales slope.
Thank you for choosing Buy More. Please.
There you go. I think that the thing that one of the keys there is that in the beginning where Jeff goes Rochambeau, as he does his countdown, Lester sort of knocks him to the floor, showing that Lester, even with Jeff, will trample over Jeff to get to the hot girl.
Well, and that's it. The thing you miss sometimes on these audio clips is that you're seeing a woman who's in the adult film industry.
Yes.
At least that's my take on that.
Right, of course, and that says a lot about you.
Well, yeah. I recognized her, too.
Exactly.
In looking at IMDb earlier, my wife actually noticed this, that you had one of your more interesting credits is that you were the voice of Michael Patterson on the on the cartoon version of the comic strip For Better or Worse.
Yeah.
Let me see if I've got this right. Well, you've got the Canadian part right, because I don't know if you're born in Canada, but you're certainly in Canada now. Mm-hmm. The Indian part, I'm not so sure I've seen that in Michael before. But how did that job come about?
Well, first of all, let me just say everybody has a little Indian in them.
Okay.
So that's what I attached to. No, that job literally. I mean, I was very young when I did it, and it came about through an audition. Quite simply, I'm born in Ottawa, and that's where it was taping, and it was literally somebody going, "Hey, do you want to go in an audition?" And I did, and they were like, "Great, here you go." I don't think at that age I knew the impact or the kind of history of the comic. I know now, and so it was that, and I met Lynn and worked with her, and it was kind of in retrospect quite thrilling. At the time I was terrified and doing a job and kind of wide-eyed about it all. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, what are some of the, a lot of the things in your credits are Canadian programs that I'm afraid I have not seen. I'm kind of wondering if there is and there's also some great, you've worked in some great films. You're in Good Will Hunting. You're in Cronenberg's Existence. And you're in The Rocker recently.
Right.
Leading up to Chuck, what were some of the roles that, were kind of high points for you that led to other things that kept opening doors?
Well, I've been, I find, I've been very, very lucky because I've got to work on stuff that has always been challenging, and if not, then it was a kind of entree into a world of kind of big budget filmmaking. Like those roles in Good Will Hunting, Existence, and The Rocker were, tiny, tiny, tiny roles. Though I like to think that I was kind of responsible for Good Will Hunting's Oscar success. No, I was just, literally, but I got to be on set when the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, as we kind of know them now, were just being formed, and watching them navigate those waters, and watching Robin Williams work. And on Existence, I spent, again, not only did I have a speck of a role, but 50% of it was cut out. But I got to spend my days with, Willem Dafoe and Ian Holm and Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and just watch them work, and watch David Cronenberg work. So there was kind of a lot of education there. And then on the other hand, there were bigger kind of meatier parts in series work here in Canada, like Our Hero and Radioactive and This Is Wonderland most recently, which were much more heavy lifting. And right before I did Chuck, I did a Canadian film that was kind of that shot in India actually for 2 months, and it's a kind of really dark, gritty, emotional role, and that was one of the things that was really interesting about that, kind of in my experience, was that I shot the last scene, the kind of end of the road for my character, and I was bawling and wailing and screaming, lying on the ground, and they called cut, and I kind of brushed the dust off my pants, and 2 months later I was on this crackling comedy set in California shooting Chuck. So I find that it was a kind of culture shock, but it's so lucky, and it's so that movie was called Amal, by the way, and it was so it's a very lucky moment, I think, in an actor's career. So I feel like I've had a lot of really, really kind of educational, positive experiences that kind of led me to battling it out on the Chuck set.
And did Chuck lead to the role in The Rocker with Rainn Wilson? No, it didn't. Chuck, not directly. I mean, at that point, we had just shot. I think we just shot our first season, or sort of half season, that got truncated. And I don't know even at that point how much had aired, but maybe when I was shooting it, some of the producers started to say, but maybe in some ways, I mean, it was a thing that what happened basically was that sometimes you come in and you do kind of a utility read for a script when an actor can't be in town for the initial read. Like if let's say the movie's shooting in Toronto, the LA actor can't be there. So I came in and just was reading some of the roles as a kind of favor to the casting director, and the director and the producer were like, "Hey, you're great. Why don't we kind of basically make you a role?" And so they did. And so I got to watch the genius that is Rainn Wilson, navigate the feature film world. So that's how that. Yeah. That film has, I have to admit, I have not seen The Rocker yet. I know that we will, because I live in a family where the women are huge Rainn Wilson fans.
Okay.
But interesting cast. I mean, and the roles, the size of the roles all vary. But I mean, Christina Applegate and Jeff Garlin. Garlin's been on Mr. Media. Jason Sudeikis, Will Arnett. That would be, I'm guessing, your second Arrested Development person.
interaction. Yeah. I mean, that was the first, actually, because that was
first.
Before.
That was before. Oh, that's before Tony Hale joined Chuck.
Before, Tony Hale caused havoc on our set. Yeah.
and Howard Hessman was in that.
I mean, it was the greatest cast. It was directed by Peter, who did the Full Monty, and so I mean, in terms of comic education, that's the school to go to.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was thinking, and we're going to wrap up in just a couple of minutes, but I was thinking back to high school recently. One of my English teachers, he was the head of the English department and also the head of the drama department. And I remember, this was back in the mid-'70s, he was so proud when one of his former students, a guy named Robert Hedges, became a big star on the ABC sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter with Gabe Kaplan. And, of course, John Travolta. It made me wonder, as we were talking, did you, have you ever gone back to your old school and, played the...
That's an interesting question. I mean, I went to an arts high school in Ottawa, Canterbury, and then went to a theater program, kind of university type thing. Before I kind of and my whole goal at that point was to be doing Shakespeare and tiny black box theaters around the world before I even had an inkling about going into film and TV. And so the thing about the arts high school in particular is that it's so what would be the word? It's so formative. It's so it kind of the lessons that I learned there are in terms of working and in all the kind of precious, pretentious actor talk stuff I still apply today. And I am and those teachers you're just kind of in constant contact with. Because they're in the industry, they're in the game, they were there when you formed it. You can ask them questions. I was on a improv team in high school that took itself very seriously, and so there were, the standards were high for it, and so I'll never forget who that Jane Moore is her name, coach was. She was incredible, and Jim McNabb, who was my drama teacher at Canterbury, and then through the Joel Millers, et cetera, at the theater program. I mean, I don't get a chance to go back to the halls of those schools, but the contact with those people has been constant, and certainly the contact with other graduates of those programs. As we all kind of got coldly, as it were, released into the world of this industry. We're always checking in and going, how's it going? What about this? Here's some advice. Don't do this. Did you get that role? Damn you, I hate you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to point out, I don't know how many people know this, but in addition to being able to watch full episodes of Chuck on NBC.com, and kind of made mention of this, but fans can also see there's an interactive comic book there and the webisodes, which we played a little bit of before.
Yeah.
Want to tell people they can check that out. I think, let's see, I think I have one more. Okay, here's one more moment before we wrap it up of Vik Sahay as Lester in NBC's Chuck. So give a listen to this, folks.
Send out a hostage as a sign of good faith.
He says that you should send out a hostage as a sign of good faith.
Good God! Pick me! Pick me! Pick me! Pick me! Pick me! Pick me!
My 86-year-old mother is dying of a very rare disease. It's leukoplakia. And she needs me. Her Bobo.
Okay, fine. Send him.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
We're sending someone out.
We got one hostage coming out, folks.
That scoundrel. I bet Bertelsky worked out a deal.
Yeah. Chuck let Emmett go so he could get better lunch shifts.
That bastard's selling us down the river, making a sweetheart deal for himself.
Guess it's prison rules now. Every man for himself.
All right, I should point out, if people don't know it, it was Tony Hale there at the beginning, but it was Vic and Scott at the end that really wrap up the scene. That's why I thought that was fun one to play.
Yeah, Tony Hill's funny.
Now, the show comes back February 2nd.
That's right.
So it's regular Monday night at 8 p.m. slot. You've kind of hinted to us that there's more interesting stuff ahead for your character, Lester.
There is indeed.
So let's see. Folks, again, you can catch up on the episodes of Chuck that you missed at NBC.com. You'll also find the comic book and Internet-only webisodes. You can also order the complete first season DVD of Chuck on Amazon.com or MR Media, MrMedia.com. Vic, it was great fun to have you. I look forward to the second half of the second season and many more to come.
Yes, excellent to talk to you.
Well, good luck and a fine Happy New Year.
To you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And folks, for more interviews with TV actors, directors, producers, and screenwriters, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with Vik Sahay's Chuck co-star, Josh Gomez, Worst Week star, Kyle Bornheimer, Curb Your Enthusiasm stars, Cheryl Hines, Jeff Garlin, and many more. Please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites. Whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, Pointer Online, Digital Journal, Podcast Pickle, Vox, Folio, Mediafly, Podfeed.net, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, or iTunes. You can also listen with a piece of string and a tin can in many locations. If you've got an idea for a guest, email me directly at bob@andelman, ANDELMAN.com. And you can follow me on Twitter. Please do. It's twitter.com/Andelman, ANDELMAN. And thank you so much for listening. I always appreciate when you give up a little piece of your day to spend it with us. Thanks, everybody. See you real soon. Bye-bye.